It is now our honor to welcome a proud Albertan, a principled Conservative, and a respected voice within the Conservative Party. Someone who works every day to stand up for rural communities, families, and Canadian values. And he's my mama's favorite.
Please join us in welcoming. Joignez-vous à nous pour accueillir un homme de principe, un vrai conservateur, Damien Carrack.
Thank you all for that very warm welcome. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate being in a huge room filled with dedicated Conservatives from coast to coast. And folks, what a weekend. We know that led by Pierre Poilievre, a united Conservative Party has come out of this weekend telling Canadians that we are ready to govern and fix the problems that the Liberals have created over the last decade in this country. My friends, truly, it is time for hope. I haven't had a moment of doubt since my wife, Danielle, and I did what we did, that Pierre Poilievre is the right man to lead this country forward. Seeing him connect with millions of Canadians across this country, I know that we are with the right man. He has inspired so much hope and optimism in Canadians who are sick and tired of a Liberal government that exists simply to help themselves. You know, from the general election to going from small town to small town in Battle River Crowfoot, I got to see firsthand how desperate the people are to see the Conservatives in government under a Prime Minister, Pierre Poilievre. And folks, a story to emphasize that. We started one of the days during the by-election campaign in Oyen, Alberta, small town of about 700. Like, man, we need to make a few stops along the way. So we texted the mayor of Delia, Alberta, town of about 150, just a little town, and said, hey, we'll be by in about half an hour. We'd love to meet and connect with some folks on Main Street. So we pull into town, and I've been to Delia a whole bunch of times. And I've maybe seen, one, two, maybe 3 or 4 vehicles on Main Street. Well, Main Street was packed. I said, well, my goodness, what's going on? Well, between that half an hour from when we had texted the mayor saying that Pierre was going to stop by, more than 100 people, doubled the population of Delia, I think, stopped by the local restaurant, and we heard for the next couple of hours story after story of how people were desperate for that hope, desperate for change. And folks, every step of the way, whether in Delia, Alberta during the by-election, or every day since Pierre Poilievre has been leader of this party, that is the hope that he brings to this nation and as leader of this Conservative movement. And it is great to see that the Conservative movement remains united and driven in its mission to get Canada back on track with hope and common sense. Look, folks, speaking of common sense, I have the honor to introduce someone who has long been dedicated to this Conservative movement, who knows what it is to be a fighter, particularly here in Alberta. Premier Danielle Smith. She fights for the values and freedoms that Canadians cherish and never backs down, even in the most challenging of circumstances. She is in the arena every single day, pushing back on the Liberal government to deliver results for both Alberta and Canada. And friends, that means fighting for freedom of expression. That means fighting for sane policies on crime so that we stop giving criminals an easy out that are the policies that are making our communities less safe. And it means fighting to build and getting Alberta's energy out and to the world. She is a tireless worker, and man, does she work hard. She doesn't stop when her critics speak up, and folks, she is a believer in this country and someone who will always answer when public duty calls. Folks, I am honored to call Premier Smith my premier, my colleague, but most of all, my friend. Please join me in giving an enormous welcome to Premier Danielle Smith.
For that very warm welcome to Damien, and a personal thank you to Damien for stepping aside to make room for our leader in the Parliament. That was incredible. Thank you for that. It is a true pleasure to welcome Conservatives from across the country to Calgary, into the heartland of conservatism in Canada. And also congratulations, of course, to our leader, Pierre Poilievre, who won 87% of the vote in last night's leadership review. Yeah. Oh, I want to thank all of the delegates here for giving our leaders such a strong mandate, because we are going to need Pierre strong to fight for our values and reverse the terrible policies of the last 10 years. Et félicitations à notre chef, Pierre Poilievre, qui a remporté 87% de voix lors de la révision de leadership tenue hier soir. Je remercie tous les délégués de lui avoir accordé un mandat aussi fort. Nous aurons besoin de chefs forts pour défendre nos valeurs et de renverser les politiques terribles des 10 dernières années. Et ce mandat est important pour le Québec aussi, car les choses que je vais discuter aujourd'hui sont importantes aux Québécois aussi. I just add a sentence every time I try. I gotta give it a whirl, right? From Peter Lougheed to Ralph Klein to Preston Manning and to the great Stephen Harper, and now to Calgary's own Pierre Poilievre, this province has a legacy of being the bastion of free thinking and economic strength since Alberta joined Confederation. But what I want to talk about today is the last 10 years. Because for 10 years, we saw a prime minister that did everything he could to devastate the West and drive our investment and jobs out while implementing radical activist policies that ramped up disorder and chaos. And it got worse over time when we saw the formation of a federal left-wing activist coalition government in Ottawa, led by then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his friend, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, that were doing all they possibly could to choke off and ultimately destroy our province's energy and agriculture sectors. They also led an attack on provincial jurisdiction, energy, health, education, childcare, you name it, they wanted control over it. They placed a production cap on our nation's most valuable strategic asset, the Alberta oil sands, and along with it, an effective moratorium on the pipelines and oil tankers needed to take that oil to markets around the world. They put a Greenpeace activist, Stephen Guilbeault, thankfully no longer at the cabinet table, in charge of this assault on Canada's economy. And that is where the real damage to Canada was done by Justin Trudeau and his allies. They intruded on areas where the provinces have prime jurisdiction. They violated our Constitution and the very ties that bind Canada together in the name of top-down bureaucratic onslaught. Pierre Poilievre and our Conservatives believe in our Constitution, in leaving the provinces to be provinces, focusing on what the federal government needs to do. Things like bail reform and building projects and supporting jobs for Canadians. Like getting out of the way of investment and projects, and building a new pipeline to the West Coast, a true nation-building project. Conservatives believe in enhancing economic opportunity for Indigenous communities by providing ownership stakes in assets that will create billions of dollars in revenue every single year, like pipelines and mines and countless other projects. Under Pierre's leadership, these projects would be no-brainers. The private sector would build them, and the provincial and federal governments would use the billions in royalty and tax revenue to fund critical services that Canadians rely on. You see, Conservatives supported building new pipelines long before the elbows up crowd, and they will support them long after all the elbows come down. As I've said many times before, we need to build pipelines to the west, to the east, to the north, and to the south. I would love, as the Prime Minister said, for pipelines to be boring again. I would love to just get them built. But it's not just about energy. Conservatives believe in fixing immigration, something that the federal government broke. Trudeau and his NDP friends ramped up immigration to an entirely unsustainable level, bringing in millions of new people on visas and putting up housing costs and putting a strain on healthcare and education and creating a national youth unemployment crisis. Now, make no mistake, immigration is so important to Canada's success. New Canadians from other countries have been essential for our economic prosperity and rich culture for over 150 years. And the rapid and But it's the rapid and unsustainable rate at which the federal government increased immigration that has damaged public programs and our economy, and it needs to return to the world-renowned system that it was under the leadership of Prime Minister Stephen Harper. On top of their mishandling of immigration and their attacks on our economy, they've completely overturned the social order of this nation with their woke, ideological justice policies such as the so-called safe supply of drugs, soft on crime bail and sentencing rules, and institutionalized censorship of free speech. Now, I've welcomed the stalwart defense of public order from Pierre and his caucus. He has always stood for the right to safety and freedom. Pierre has been advocating to fix the ridiculous bail laws that woke activists put in place, laws that continue to let repeat violent criminals back on the street instead of keeping them behind bars where they belong. These same criminals who are arrested half an hour after they get bail, like we recently saw in Lethbridge, where an accused criminal was released and immediately re-arrested the same day for breaching his conditions. Conservatives believe in funding, not defunding the police. Conservatives believe in justice for victims, not excuses for the guilty and letting them roam free and to cause more havoc. And Conservatives believe in actually helping those with addiction through treatment, not free drugs for them to use in playgrounds and parks. And rather than taking guns and punishing law-abiding firearms, things we certainly won't be doing in Alberta, Conservatives there's a few gun owners out there. But it's because Conservatives believe in addressing the actual problem, the smuggling of illegal guns from outside Canada through the porous borders that Justin Trudeau created. Pierre also believes in protecting our women and girls and upholding fairness and safety, something that we've done here in Alberta, because Pierre, myself, and the majority of Canadians agree biological men do not belong in women's sports. Period. Canadians recognize that the left-wing activists have gone too far. They want order, they want justice, and they want to take their kids to a playground without worrying about discarded needles or addicts shooting up. Public safety is a cornerstone of society. When we can't guarantee that Canadians are safe in their own communities, it is a failure, one that any Conservative government would alleviate immediately, because the Conservative Party of Canada has strong leadership. Leadership with moral clarity, with a plan to restore Canada's economic leadership, to return Canada to an international economic engine, a stalwart defender of global freedom, and a place that holds true to the promise that if you work hard, you can get ahead. That is the leadership that Pierre Poilievre brings. That is the vision he has for Canada, and it's one that he learned right here in Alberta when he was growing up. I am proud to work with him, to be a member of this party under his leadership, and I know that he'll lead the Conservatives back to victory in the next election.
Merci infiniment, Premier Ministre Smith, and especially I want to thank you very much for your excellent French. Been very appreciated. Je suis certain que mes collègues francophones ont apprécié. Thank you, Premier Smith. And also, thank you for being such a strong voice for Alberta and for Conservatives.
And now, all you folks that are not Albertans know why this premier is so popular here. We love her. We love you, Danielle. Okay, time for lunch. You've all worked hard. Just like yesterday, due to space restrictions in our meal hall, we are asking that you stick to your allotted lunchtime based on your last name. Noon, last name starts with A to F. 12:30 p.m., last name starts with G to M. 1 p.m., last name starts with N to Z. Please be cognizant of the limited seating and don't hold seats after you've eaten. There's lots of room to socialize in the exchange on the second floor. See you all after lunch.
Oh, yeah.
In the morning, can you exercise?
You should do exercises. That's important to our good health. And friends, tomorrow we are going to be visiting with a fisherman who will tell us about his very enjoyable hobby. Now, I would like to see you all through our magic mirror. Romper, bumper, stomper, boo, tell me, do. Magic mirror, please tell me today, did all of my friends have fun at play? I see all of my friends in Alberta. It's nice to see you. And I see Dan and Vivian. I see Marlon and Mona. I see Catherine and Harley. I see Anne and Elizabeth and Jane. I see Bert and Nicole, and I see you too. I hope to see you tomorrow, right here in Romper Room.
Ding dong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Bing bong, tick tock, bebop boom.
Kick off your weekend with exciting CFL action when the Edmonton Eskimos tackle the BC Lions in Vancouver. Tomorrow night at 10:30 on CFTO TV.
You be a